Insights of All Trades podcast.
Yeah, everybody I met that had through like the PCT and then come to the AT, like they all hated the AT.
Just because it's like similar scenery and
and it's like it is harder. Like it's you gain 100,000 more feet of elevation and 500 less miles. You're just going straight up, straight down. There's no switchbacks. There's no like drainage, so all the trails are washed out. They're just rocks. And it's wet. It rains all the time. Like it's hard, and it is the same scenery for like 80% of it. Which especially if you like grew up in Pennsylvania, like I did, like I've been seeing this crap like my whole life. So that was definitely like a struggle, especially in the middle of the trail. And I think for a lot, like the Virginia Blues, people talk about that because like Virginia's like
they're like halfway. Or
yeah,
whatever.
it's like a 500-mile state, so you're in it forever, and you're not like. And it's like all the pretty much the same like trees and stuff. And yeah, that one got me. Gotcha. Especially because I did Virginia in like 2 different parts. And like that was a whole nother story. But
all right. We can start from January 1st. So you started in Georgia with your buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, we started January 1st, full of ambition.
A man with a dream.
It rained like 4 days in a row. It was in the 40s, which like really sucks when it's raining. But I mean, we knew we signed up for starting January 1st.
What kind of gear do you have right away off the start?
So I'm like in my winters, like I'm pretty dialed in. We've been like talking about what gear we're going to bring. I've been testing a lot of stuff. So I'd been on like multiple different winter camping trips. I remember like the one time the year before, it was like, tonight's going to be the coldest night like ever, whatever they were saying. And like, all right, well, we got to go camping and we got to test ourselves. So like, we've been doing stuff like that. So my gear was dialed in. I wasn't worried about that. But, so I was bringing like, I had a 20-degree sleeping bag and a 40-degree over, like a sleeping bag that would go on top of that. I was wearing like waterproof boots, waterproof shoes. I was, like a fleece that I would hike in and like a wind shirt. Like pretty much you're carrying like twice as much gear as you would in the summer. And that was like, then that's another part of the challenge of being in the winter. You have to bring more fuel, stuff like that. And I was a lot heavier. I was telling you earlier, I started the trail at 210 and I was like 160 when I ended. So I'm carrying a lot of extra weight coming up those hills in Georgia. And like people say, oh, Georgia's easy, like compared to up north, but like not when you're starting. It's not easy.
Yeah, in the winter, holy cow.
Yeah, don't ever tell a hiker that's going to be easy. But
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I was like literally coming up these hills and like seeing stars and stuff, like a blackout, not remember the climbs. Yeah, it was super intense. But I wanted like that experience. I wanted to like lose the weight and push through it. I knew it was going to be hard at the beginning. And it's like the first week wasn't too bad weather-wise. I mean, there was rain, but it wasn't too bad. The worst part about Georgia was the mice. Like the mice would so like
get into your food and
stuff? So like they would literally like you'd open a Cliff Bar and they'd come out like in the daytime. Like I've never seen mice in the daytime before.
Whoa.
And this third night of the trail, we just started and we passed by this hostel. You can stay, it says $20 a night. If you want to stay and drive, but we're like, we just started. We're not staying inside. So we hike another mile up the mountain.
Too tough for that.
And we set up camp and like I start cooking dinner and we set up our like tarp. We didn't even have a tent. We just brought a tarp.
You just have freeze dried food to make? Yeah,
I think I'm trying to remember. We were making pasta with cheese that night with like tuna. And so we're like I'm cooking it and I spill a little bit. And as soon as I spill it on the ground, these mice like come out. And like there's 3 or 4 mice like circling the tarp and you can see them. So we like eat as fast as we can. I try to like throw the extra food out and like
they're as far away from where you're sleeping
they're
as
like
possible.
super brave. They're running up like literally like it'll be over your foot. Like we're like trying to hit them with trekking poles and then we're about to like get up and just go. And it starts to rain. So we're like, we're not moving in the rain. So like, we like get in for the night. It's raining and like these mice are just crawling over our heads. And before we went in, I hung up my pack with all the food in it to keep the mice from getting to it. And like, it starts to rain and I like set the tarp up so it's angled against the rain. We go to bed and then like, I don't know, a couple hours later, I wake up and I'm soaking wet because the wind has turned and the rain's coming into the tarp And like,
were you doing light tent, or were you doing a hammock with like a rain trap set up?
We literally had a tarp that over top, and then we had like a ground cloth. We each had our own ground cloth that we'd sleep on. So with no like netting, no like real tent, just like a tarp. So like I prefer that because it's lighter. And we were planning on staying at shelters mostly, so it was like, you know, you could carry a 2-pound tarp or a 2-pound tent and stay in it every night and set it up, or you have this like less than a pound kind of emergency shelter. And so we made the decision, which was kind of dumb, but well, we should have just gone to the shelter that night if we knew it was going to rain. Because after that, I wouldn't stay out if I knew it was going to rain. But if I had angled the tarp down, like if I'd pulled the one wall down, I would have been fine. I wouldn't have gotten wet. Because like I had it up against a tree, and then I had a trekking pole here, and it was kind of angled this way. The rain was coming this way. And then it switched, and the rain started coming in this side that was open.
Gotcha.
If I pulled this edge down, I would have been totally fine, which is like what I did. But I was like asleep already, and I woke up like soaking wet, and I'm like, oh shoot.
Gotcha.
And
so for those not seeing the video, he essentially had one side blocked off of his hammock, like, you know, picture a half side of a tent.
Yeah.
And your other side completely open.
Yeah. And
rain
so
blowing
the rain blows in. I wake up soaking wet. And this is when the mice decide they really want to bother me. So I'm like laying there shivering, like debating if I'm like should get up and hike. I like woke up, put all my rain gear on, got back in my sleeping bag.
Was your buddy totally asleep?
Yeah. Well, he was like asleep, and like he kind of heard me moving, but he was in like the more sheltered part of the tarp setup. So like he was good, and I was just soaking wet. And so like, and then the mice are running over my head, and I'm freezing, wonder if I'm gonna get hypothermia. I'm like, I tell him, I'm like, listen, dude, I might go soon. Like I might have to run back down the mountain. It's like finally survived the night, and like we get up, and I'm like, finally, like I see the sun, so I'm like, all right, we're moving out of here. So I get up, I go over to my pack, and like there's a giant hole that the mouse have chewed through it, and they went and they ate my Parmesan cheese crisps, and I was so pissed because that's like my favorite food. And as I'm like surveying the damage, soaking wet, like, why am I doing this? Like this dad and his 9-year-old daughter are walking by about to finish up their thru hike, and I'm like, she just did this. And I'm right now like, wow, is this?
Dang, they started in Maine and went to Georgia.
They had started Maine and Georgia. They started in like July. So, yeah, this 9-year-old girl is just finishing up the AT, and I'm, like, soaking wet like an idiot. I have no idea what I'm doing. And it was just, like, super humbling. So we, like, luckily the day before we met this guy who gave us his phone number and was like, if you need anything, call me. So we hiked to the next gap, and we got a ride back to that hostel that we'd passed the day before. And, like, I insisted that we stop because I was like, all my stuff was wet, and it was going down below freezing the next night. So I was like, I can't stay out in this. Like I'm gonna get hypothermia. So it was like we reset, and after that, like if it was gonna like there was any chance of rain, we were staying in a shelter, and I pretty much stayed in shelters the rest of the trail, just because like when I went, there really wasn't that many people. So like people don't like staying in the shelters because there's always like a group of people there, and it'll be packed, and you're sleeping next to strangers, and it's kind of gross. But like I hiked the first 1,000 miles without like we shared a shelter 3 times. And 2 of those were the first 2 nights of the trail. So
yeah, it probably beats sleeping outside in the winter when you're wet.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was really nervous that night that like I was gonna get hypothermia, like stuff was gonna go bad. I was getting ready to just get up and like run back just to get my temperature up. And so like, but after that, we figured things out a little more.
So what happened with your pack though? You said it got like a hole in it. Did you ditch that or?
I tried to like tape it. The tape would always fall off, but like that didn't get any bigger. Like the hole was big enough that it was like probably this big, and like stuff wouldn't fall out.
It was manageable.
And the hole didn't grow at all. So whatever, I think it was Cordura nylon that Granite Gear uses is tough stuff. So shout out to them. So I used that pack for the first like 900 miles of the trail.
Okay.
Because it was like a little bigger volume. I needed it to fit all my winter gear in. And then when I eventually did take some time off the trail, I sewed up a new pack to take for my like summer gear. It was smaller, and I'd been like thinking about like what would the perfect pack look like and what features do I want. So I was home for like 3 weeks with like nothing to do. So I had left like scrap fabric and I sewed up one. And that was pretty cool. But like to get to that point, we hiked, like, I don't know. We went through like, I struggled with the reason we got off trail then, I guess I'll do it like this. Was because of like plantar fasciitis. My feet were all jacked up.
Right. And this is once you're up in West Virginia, right?
Virginia. We were in like the Shenandoahs.
Okay.
But I
900 miles in, you said?
Yeah, we'd like just passed 900 miles when we went into town. But like I wasn't like thinking about that stuff because like after that first week, it got like pretty intense with the weather. I mean, we were all through like Tennessee and North Carolina. We were walking through snow and like it was like in the teens or like single digits every night. So like it's like when you're hiking in the cold, there's just so much more things you have to like worry about, like keeping your water filter from freezing, because if it freezes it'll crack and then it's not gonna filter the water. You got to keep your fuel warm at night, because if you don't have it warm, you're not gonna be able to like heat up your coffee in the morning. You gotta like you could do this, but we didn't. Like you could sleep with your boots and like keep them from freezing, but like every morning my boots are frozen completely solid, and you gotta like the night before you gotta completely unlace them so they're super loose, so you can put them on, walk a mile, and then they're thawed out. You can tighten them up again. Like everything, like if you sweat, then you're like gonna get cold from the sweat. So like,
did you dress like kind of lighter than, say, if you were in a PA winter storm and you were walking to class or something like that, and you had like a big winter coat?
Yeah, because
would you intentionally dress lighter to avoid sweating?
Yeah, definitely. But like I'm just like such a sweaty person that is kind of like
a hydrated person.
Yeah. That was like my one good feature as a wrestler. Like I could sweat weight off like a champ. But which was funny because my buddy when we were in high school and wrestling, he could never sweat. Like it took him so much to cut weight and sweat, and so it was like. Back then, I was like always, I can sweat more than you. It was cool. And then it like flipped because he's not as cold as I am because I'm soaked in sweat and it's 20 degrees outside.
It's the same buddy that you're with hiking with.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it was like kind of funny how like roles reversed there. But yeah, so like, I mean, most of the days I would hike in just like a base layer, like a polyester like t-shirt. I had a long sleeve shirt and then my wind layer. And if it was really cold, I'd add a fleece to that. But you have to start out really cold to be comfortable hiking. And I don't like, especially with my feet, because if like when I stopped, my feet would hurt more starting again. So I didn't really ever want to stop hiking. So I would always like start off the like first in the morning just freezing. Like it was like a half an hour of being miserable, and then you like catch your groove. Yeah, I can't either. I don't really know how I did it. That was like the first 2 months of the trail were pretty tough. Just with the cold, like I've never, and I was losing weight the whole time, so I'm like slowly getting less and less like insulated to the cold.
When you started, what kind of miles were you doing from like, say in Georgia? What miles?
We were doing like 15 to 20 a day.
Oh, okay. So
which was probably
kind of
not
like,
good for my feet.
Okay. Do you wish you had dialed it back a little bit to?
Probably, but I don't know. I mean, it was what it was. I had to get into shape. I probably would have taken it a little easier. But I mean, I don't know. We'd done like mileage like that before, but not like I don't really think I realized how, because we'd done that one like 120 miles in like a week, and that's like around 20 miles a day average. And we had felt fine with that, but like doing that week in and week out is a whole different ball game. So I kind of do wish I had let myself get a little more adjusted, because I did. Like after I got back on the trail for my feet, I took the mileage down a bit and it was a little more enjoyable. And then like as I got towards the end of the trail, I was ramping up the miles, and like I finished the last 120 miles I did in 4 30-mile days.
Dang.
So, I mean, I had to be there to like meet my sister, but it was I was cruising. But yeah, I mean, that's like if I was anyone starting a thru hike, like 10 to 12 a day at the beginning is probably smart.